Hey all, this is Raj here. Welcome to ShareTrek. As you know, recently I started a new approach to genomics investing. That approach was to, in addition to looking at our watch list and doing technical analysis and individual videos, I was planning to look at major health disorders, the size of the market, whether genomics can provide a cure, and identify those big segments of ailments which a large population suffers. And if it can be cured by genomics, then to start looking at genomic companies that are working on those. I had identified diabetes, lupus, cholesterol, and HIV as four verticals that I want to look at. And we have had three videos so far about HIV. Today I want to talk about another disorder called lupus. This is the first video on lupus. We'll have many more to come at a later date. It'll all be spaced out so that we are not focused on just one thing, but we take into account the entire genomics area. We will discuss symptoms, causes, and also check out the companies that are working on therapies. So with that said, let's get started. Welcome back. Let's get started again. What is lupus? That's the main question. In people with lupus, cells that have undergone self-destruction because they are damaged or are no longer needed are not cleared away properly from the body. The relationship of this loss of function of being able to clear away the waste from the body to the cause or features of lupus is still unclear. Researchers suggest that these dead cells may release substances that cause immune system to react inappropriately and attack the body's own tissues, resulting in the signs and symptoms of lupus. It's a kind of autoimmune disease where any part of the body can be affected depending on the episode that happens. And it's very difficult to diagnose lupus because many times it mimics some other ailments. So misdiagnosis is always a possibility with lupus. Normal variations or polymorphisms in many genes can affect the risk of developing lupus, and in most cases, multiple genetic factors are thought to be involved. In rare cases, however, variants, also called as mutations in single genes, can cause lupus. Most of the genes associated with lupus are involved in the immune system function, and changes in these genes likely affect proper targeting and control of the immune response. It's believed that the sex hormones and a variety of environmental factors, including viral infections, diet, stress, chemical exposures, and sunlight, are also thought to play a role in triggering this complex disorder. About 10% of lupus cases are thought to be triggered by drug exposure, and more than 80 drugs have been identified as being suspected to be involved in triggering lupus. So that's the progress that has happened so far. Here are some genes additionally that have been identified with lupus initially. The first one is IRF5, the second is NCF2, the third is PTPN22, the fourth is STAT4, and the fifth is TREX1. So these are five genes that had been earlier identified as being involved with the lupus syndrome. And does this mean that gene therapy can cure lupus, which is currently incurable? Well, it seems like it is possible because now that we have identified some target genes, we'll be able to modify those genes. We have got CRISPR, we've got beam therapies, what's it called, prime editing and base editing. All those tools are now available to us. So it should definitely be possible to do something about it. We'll discuss what progress has been made so far as we go ahead in these videos. But for sure, there should be some way of tackling lupus, having identified some of the genes. Apart from this, you should also remember that we have companies like Illumina and PACV who are working on gene sequencing machine, and they have software which are able to look at genetic patterns and try to associate them with syndromes. So now those kind of technologies will also help scientists in identifying the relationship and interplay of genes in causing lupus. And once that is clear, then we can have a genetic medicine strategy to make necessary modification to select genes and get rid of this particular syndrome. So with that said, presently there is no cure for lupus, a disease that causes the body's immune system to attack itself. But researchers are now closer to a genetic explanation for the puzzling condition. And this is all thanks to the genome of a child with a rare inherited form of lupus. The discovery was of a gene called TLR7. So this is a new gene. This is not part of the first 5 genes that we had identified. We now have a new study that looks into this particular gene TLR7 that helps fight off viruses. However, when TLR7 becomes overactive, TLR7 unleashes the immune system on the body's own organs and tissues. Although TLR7 is not the only gene implicated in lupus, targeting its activity or protein could help many patients. Carola Venus, an immunogeneticist you can see here at the Francis Cirque Institute, who led the work published in April 2022 in Nature, says TLR7 is likely to be a central hub, if not the central signaling pathway in lupus. In terms of size, I would say that approximately 200,000 people in the United States have lupus at this point of time. Preclinical studies have provided proof of concept for feasibility and efficacy of gene therapy in lupus. Successful efforts include gene constructs that alter the expression of cytokines or limit the cognate interaction of immune cells. Other efforts may include gene-modified cell transfer, such as autologous B cell transfected with tolerogenic constructs of T cells, or T cells with specific molecular aberrations which have been corrected can be infused back into the patient's body. So there are a lot of different genetic strategies that can be used in form of genes therapies to cure lupus. Conventional drug interventions only aim to decelerate the associated chronic inflammation or potentially adjust the patient's lifestyle to avoid aforementioned triggers. However, at best, such immunosuppressive treatments alleviate symptoms and eventually come with severe side effects. A genetic treatment would be a much more durable and efficient way and more elegant way of treating lupus. That said, scientists are hoping to improve those odds by giving the immune cells of lupus patients a fighting chance. Though it is still early days, lupus care research has a promising target, and the new approach is what we are all very familiar with in this channel, that is the use of CAR-T therapy. We have seen that CAR-T therapy has been successfully deployed in various cancers and tumors. So it's possible to use CAR-T therapy to target lupus. That is a consensus now. And I'm thinking that if CAR-T therapy can be used to cure lupus, then the bispecifics can also be used to cure lupus, because then bispecifics will be totally allogenic and it will be much more easier to administer. Anyway, we already have CAR-T therapies approved by FDA for taking care of cancers and tumors. There are a handful of them, and they are doing a great job at this point of time. So if we were to put all our eggs in the CAR-T basket and just go ahead with it, due to the inherent targetability of CAR-T cells can be generated for other immune-based diseases. Therefore, we can assume that it can happen for lupus as well. Therefore, a 2021 clinical case report for an experimental therapy claims to have proved it to be feasible to use CAR-T for blocking B cells from releasing lupus-causing antibodies. Clinical trials with more participants are in early stages, but will provide systematic investigations of safety and efficacy of similar strategies that deplete B cells or inhibit the associated activity that causes lupus. As per an article in the New England Journal of Medicine dated 5th of August 2021, I have put a link for this article in the description because it's a very interesting read, and I hope some of you can actually take the time to read it. It talks about a 20-year-old woman who was suffering from severe lupus and was treated with autologous CD19 CAR-T cells, and they presented data to show that CD19 CAR-T cell therapy may induce rapid remission of refractory SLE. The rapid disappearance of lupus antibodies, such as CD19 expressing plasmablasts, as the major source of these antibodies. Given the role of B cells in a variety of severe autoimmune diseases, CAR-T cell therapy that targets B cell antigens may have a wider application. So there is hope for lupus patients, and I am still scanning to find a gene therapy company that's actually working on this approach or may take this approach to work on lupus, but I haven't found any. But I'll keep looking, and as soon as I get any more information or more insights into this disease, I'll come back to you with a video. At this point of time, I think this is just the inaugural video. We're just scratching the surface. We are trying to understand what is lupus, which we did. Next, we looked at what are the symptoms of lupus, what happens, how it is difficult to diagnose. And then we looked at the mechanism of lupus, how the body starts acting against itself. And then we identified the genes that are potentially involved in creating the lupus condition. And we also spoke about various genomic approaches that can be taken in order to tackle lupus. And we also discussed a clinical trial that is going on, which initially proved the safety and efficacy, and it's now continuing to work on more patients in order to come up with much more information, so that it can be approved as a therapy. So we have covered a lot of ground today, and in future I might bring more videos on lupus. And if any of you are familiar with any genomic company that's working on a therapy for lupus, please put it in the description below so that I can go check it out and come back to you with more information. So that's all from me for now, and I'll have more videos on this topic as I mentioned in future. And with that said, I would like you to consider pressing the like button if you did enjoy this video. And if you're not yet subscribed, please subscribe and help us grow this channel. We have 2 videos coming up on weekdays every day, and on weekends we have a video each. Therefore, I think it'll be worthwhile subscribing and pressing the notify button. Thanks and have a great day. Bye for now.